go. Well, it's time for another MalTravAle podcast. Episode 34. I'm getting tardy because the screen there said episode 32, but it really is episode 34, which has taken quite a while to get here. I think we were planning this actually about 2 weeks ago. We had one go at it, and then Sky Broadband got in the way, and I just talked like a Dalek. I disappeared. So Bruce and Nick were carrying on. In fact, I've not even listened back to the recording. So
yeah, we thought it was going to be best podcast ever, didn't we, Bruce? Absolutely. Get a word in edgeways, couldn't we?
We had one false attempt, and then we tried again, and I was struck down with whatever the post-COVID, uncovid.
Oh yeah, so are you now? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, it was just 24 hours, and I think the whole family had it for a while. We all had it for about 24 hours. Apart from my wife, who had it for 4 days. But there we go. That's another story. So anyway, we're eventually here, and even then, it's been a bit slight challenge because I've got a lot of IT issues at work at the moment. So we're here. So I'm not falling asleep in a minute because I've been up most of the day. So we're here. It's episode 34. So we thought we'd just do a quick catch up where I think we last time we met was just before the Easter holidays. And wanted to wear a few plans there. So a quick catch up on that. And then the highlight was a visit to BeertownMalton, obviously gives the podcast its name. After a gap of 2 years, the Malton breweries, Bashcastle and Bad Seed had got together and done their back to their beer festival. And it's been postponed, this one, I think, again, 2 or 3 times on this podcast. So Nicholas there is showing off the glass for those on YouTube, and I'm going to show off my lovely new, I've gone now, my lovely new T-shirt, which you can't see. There we go, Beertown T-shirt, which we might talk about in a minute. Unfortunately, Bruce couldn't be with us. He was on family duties and work duties, so it was just me and Nick, but we had a good all night, so we'll catch up on that and obviously let Bruce know kind of what he missed. So let's start with some beery highlights. So Nick, it's a while now, but I think you had a busy Easter at work, and you managed to get out, I think, on Easter Monday, but you found most of the pubs were shut.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was Sunday or Monday, but yeah, so I'd done 8 days in a row, so I thought I'll have a walk uptown. Walked up by the river, up to Omnilton, realised that they don't normally open on a Monday, but they stopped up until 7 o'clock, but sadly for me, it was 7:15. I could see some regulars disappearing in the cars away home. So I thought, right, walk into town. So I walked into town. Yorkshire Bar and Grill, the Omvi, which is a new place, they weren't open. New Malton weren't open, but I could see Chapter 2, top of the marketplace, was open. Walked into there, the only person in the front bar area, but managed to get a pint of this antidote, which, reading the bottom of the pump clip in small letters, says Copper Dragon. So it's out the Copper Dragon stable brewery. Nice beer. So in fact, managed to squeeze another one, and then Rory, the landlord, arrived. He was just dropping some stuff off out of his car at the front of the pub. So I said to him, it was a bit of a saviour, seeing that most of the places in town were closed. He said, well, I'm closing at 8 o'clock. So I went, all right, okay. But yeah, I mean, the town was dead. So I walked back down Wheelgate. Cross Keys was closed. Sotheby's was, shouldn't call it Sotheby's, otherwise we get banned from there. The Rose and Crown was closed. There was one bloke sat in on his own in the New Globe. And as I walked back down Norton, there was one person in the Union. So I ended up getting Chinese and coming home.
Quiet night. Yeah, it's just worrying. I mean,
but I enjoyed the 2 pints of antidote I had anyway. So,
but I think that again, whether it's still staffing, I know one or two places I've been, and in fact we checked a guy at work who actually was staying at a hotel up in Carlisle, and the bar shut at 10 for everybody. He says, "It's my resident." He says, "Yeah, we shut at 10." So it's early doors, isn't it? And you think a year ago we were still in lockdown, just emerged from lockdown, weren't we? So it's still quite challenging for our pubs. Bruce, you've been revisiting or good news is that you've found a few village pubs which have been reopening around York and some Sam Smith's pubs. So there's a couple of your visits here, I think.
We have. I mean, this is at Sam Smith's pub, but yes, on the way to the Crooked Billet, we're at the long way around. We took the country around. We're delighted to report that the Roebuck Inn, Abbot Roebuck's reopened. Roebuck Inn, absolutely classic Yorkshire boozer in an old village that's now becoming increasingly gentrified. But of course, no matter how things get gentrified, Sam Smith does it alter his direction at all, or making it allowance to the local audience. But it's a fantastic pub. If you come to the A64, once you get past Hadden, put in your sat nav, drop in, see it. If you're old in York, well worth the trip out. It's stone flag floors. It's got huge copper barrel tables. It's got a huge Yorkshire range for such a small pub. On a winter's night, it's almost could be something from somebody writing a novel set in Yorkshire on a winter's night. That would be, for an American audience, the Roebuck, be exactly what they'd envisage on a winter's night. It's absolutely fantastic. It's one pub with 3 fires, but the Yorkshire range is fantastic. We've missed it this winter, and sadly, I don't suppose the fires are going now much the next winter. So let's hope they don't upset Mr. Smith and keep it open. Fantastic pub. But yeah, this night we're on our way to the Crooked Billet, which is at Towton, site of England's bloodiest battle in the English Civil War. There, apparently, it's knee deep in blood, thousands of casualties. This is the pub actually at Towton. And like many places, we've all been chuntering lately about the price of food going up in pubs. But there, Fish Friday, which picture there, £15 for 2 portions, £15. And excellent they were too. Excellent they were too, yeah. So it's well worth it.
I think John T. Road might have to say something about presentation, Bruce, but yeah, I don't suppose there's much you can do with fish chips and mushy peas, but yeah.
Oh, no.
And what was the beer like, Bruce, there?
It's a limited beer range. They've
Yeah.
got non-fictions on one guest ale. It's famous for its giant Yorkshire puddings, actually. Again, rather madly, they've gone up to £15 for a giant pudding. They are proper homemade Yorkshire puddings, are enormous. But they do a Yorkshire pudding challenge, which bizarrely is still £18 for 3 courses. So if you can eat it, you get a giant Yorkshire pudding full of gravy to start, then a Yorkshire pudding with any filling that you want and all the trimmings. And then to end with a gigantic Yorkshire pudding full of golden syrup and ice cream. At which point your liver will probably pack up and, you know.
Very good.
Like your stodge.
£18 for 3 courses. But yeah, great little pub, the Crooked Billet, friendly people. Open for breakfast on a weekend as well. And I say, not pretentious at all. Amazing how they managed to. I was in London yesterday, and every single pub, every cafe was looking for staff, and that metropolis was full of millions. Yet they're absolutely in the middle of nowhere, and now it seems to manage to keep it staffed. So,
Good. Very good. And then you also had a trip to Harrogate, I think, again over Easter. Again, it was very much food related, Bruce. You were going to find Rate My Takeaway's #1 takeaway.
Absolutely, yes. Any of those, of course, watch that YouTube juggernaut that's Rate My Takeaway. Probably saw it's Harrogate a few weeks ago. It's a quite innocuous looking sandwich shop. I was so blown away by the food. You're the best ever place he'd been to. Previous to that, of course, it was Nibble at Hull. So we're quite delighted to have it so close to home. So with 2 very excited kids in tow, off we went. I think if we'd been taken to see the Taj Mahal, they'd been less excited. It's testament to the power of social media. So yes, indeed, we went. So we had these KFCs, which are on YouTube, see the top left-hand corner. You have to say it was pretty damn impressive, though. The bread's amazing. Everything there's prepared on the premises. This was their own hand-fried chicken. 3 enormous pieces of wonderfully seasoned fried chicken. In an amazing piece of bread, about £6. I had a fancy pastrami sandwich. Somebody else had a hot Japanese seared beef sandwich. And in the midst of it all, my wife spent about 25 minutes agonising at the choice of breads and fillings and exotic things she put in it, and goes, "I'll have a cheese and chutney, please." Yeah.
So that's the Thug Sandwich Company in Harrogate.
It is, yeah. Absolutely. It was interesting to talk to the bloke, actually. Said, how's it affected you? He said, it's just been insane. He said, if you open up the morning, he says, and there were 5 lads, he says, they'd come from Kent, they'd driven up from Kent, he says, 5 hours. And he said, you know, if you want to anything about the powerful influence social media deals, like this was testament. And the nice lads deserve all the success, you have to say. But it's a tiny place, but the food is
Whereabouts is it, Bruce?
It's about 90 seconds walk from the train station. You know, it's not Cheltenham Parade, is it? It's the road with all the restaurants and all the There's Pizza Express, there's Pezzo Sushi, and Your Sushi. And then you've got this little sandwich shop, and I say, of course, doing well anyway, but of course since there, it just but well worth a visit, I have to say. Lots of veg options for Jackie too if you go. But I was saying to Michael, it was quite bizarre. I mean, I know we nick about Wetherspoons, but you have to say that this afternoon, Harrogate, I mean, we've gone to the Winter Gardens, which is probably
fantastic Wetherspoons, isn't it? Yeah,
arguably the most Wetherspoons in the country.
But once again, I mean, he saved it. What else would have happened to it? I mean, the actual bath down at the bottom of the hill is a Chinese restaurant now, part of it. But
yeah, and that's not open after the pandemic.
Yeah,
I mean, these great parquet floors, huge Renaissance themed ceilings, and this huge staircase down to it. They can maintain it really well. It said 15 rail ales on that day. 15 rail ales. There's so much room, people can spread about together. It attracts a very different crowd to many Wetherspoons affair. And why wouldn't it in those surroundings? And I was astonished. Jaipur on it, £2.10p a pint, which is madness. £2.10p a pint.
Use your voucher, Bruce. Use your voucher.
Nobody wants it, but I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
And then later that day, we discovered that they went to see Mr. Addyman was over for a pint. On the way back, noticed that the Inn on Cheltenham Parade is now seems to be old Taylor's themed, which was new. So I went in, and it's the bloke who operates two other pubs. So Taylor's own the buildings, but he operates this and two other pubs. And I say, the full rack of Taylor's beers on there, including that off new cask beer, but £4.75 a pint. £4.75, and it's a Taylor's house. And you think, why in the name of God do you pay £4.75 for a pint of a Golden Best the landlord? Which was actually that was a weird thing. There's no price difference between the strengths of Taylor's beer. But you get 2 pints of Jaipur and still be 35p for the good. So in terms of the cost of living crisis, it's hard to imagine in a place like that. You've got a really nice Wetherspoons. The people are going to flock to them out there. Really.
It's what we talked about last podcast, didn't we? That there is a challenge there. There is I know Nick's got a story we might do next. He had a cunning ploy the other day where he ended up having basically pint tasters. I've got some pictures for the next podcast where he worked out a scam with the meal deal and the drinks deal. So rather than paying for 3/3, he ended up with 3 pints but the same price. So we will come back to that one. So
how did that work out?
Well, yeah, if you buy 3 meals and you persuade all your family not to have a cup of coffee or a Coke, but have a pint.
Jackie was driving, so I buy her a cup of coffee at $1.29. Yeah. Mother didn't want an alcoholic drink, so I bought her a coffee at $1.29. Right, and I got my own drink free, so I had 3 pints of beer there for less than £4.50.
I know. And it's funny because we go, the kids, they love the curries. I mean, the other thing I really like now is the curries. I think the food, I have to say, it's pretty shocking. But the curries seem to hold their own. But if we go and say, nobody seems to question the fact as far as you're buying, one's 11, you're buying 4 pints.
No, so as I mentioned, my Easter was spent very, very nicely down in Devon. So we had quite a nice little trip there and managed to get out and have a few beers again. Pubs were interested there. A lot of the pubs were shut. They weren't shut. They closed either on alternate days. There seemed to be a little bit of a, you open on Tuesdays, we'll open on the Wednesdays. But managed to get quite a few pubs. I actually found a fantastic book actually in the place we were staying called The Pubs of Devon from 1972. It was full of Bass Charrington and all on Watneys and things like that.
Alka-Seltzer.
Yes, but the Alka-Seltzer Guide to Pubs of Devon.
Extraordinary.
Very interesting. So I had some great beers there, and I've kind of done a little map of the southwest there. So I started off on the Tally-Ho, which is the Bridport. That's the Palmer's Brewery. I think the oldest brewery in the UK, I think. And it's thatched. I've been there. It's really, really nice place. Bays, which is a brewery out of Torquay. And the best part of all was some very, very, very nice proper job on proper Cornish cask in Devon, which is really good. And then there's just a picture of me there outside the Barnyards Cove Inn, which is in Dartmouth, which was very nice as well. So I'm going to put together a whole little pack on Devon. So I might just do maybe another talk through, and I'm going to blog about that as well. The only downside, we had a trip out one day to one of the kind of little villages towns that's kind of in on the edge of Dartmoor, and I picked out the old Exeter Inn, which apparently is one of the oldest inns in the world. I think it's something like 12th century, and Sir Francis Drake and people. I think apparently the stories. Sir Francis Drake was actually arrested in this pub and taken to the Tower of London when he fell out with the Queen Elizabeth. I'd seen this pub. It's fantastic. It's talk about old worldy. It's whatever York's got, this has got it on steroids. It's a place called Ashburton, and I'd noticed that they actually serve the beer on gravity from behind the bar. So again, if you're
Wow.
on YouTube, you can see that a fantastic. I mean, that must be, I guess, it's a fireplace that they've used, but the barrels are left behind there, and it's normally local beers. So it was. I wouldn't say it's a fair journey. It was probably about a 45-minute trip there. Nice little town, nice little market town.
What was it called, Michael?
It's called the Old Exeter Inn.
Right.
And got in there, and then behind as I walked in, I saw behind the bar the sign saying "No real ale on draft today" for
Oh,
inconvenience. So I think again that was a Tuesday, and the young guy behind the bar said, "Look, really sorry, we only get cask in the weekend because we can't, we're not sure how much we're going to sell, so we get it on, we get a delivery on a Friday, and it's just when it lasted. Unfortunately, they had a good weekend, so they did have a range of keg beers and some interesting, actually, some kind of German beers and Belgian beers. So it wasn't all lost, but it was just such a shame that I got all
so
that
the
way.
pub's in Exeter then?
No, the pub is in a place called Ashburton, which is about halfway between, I would guess, Exeter and Launceston. It's very near. I tell you what it's near. It's the village next to the Abbey Buckfast. It's just up the road from Buckfast Abbey. If you're on the A38 going towards Cornwall, it's I say probably about 30 minutes from Exeter. So really, really good. Now, again, as we've just said, we've got a few other catch-ups to do. I know, Nick, you've had a trip out to Whitby and one or two other places kind of over this last kind of bank holiday week and stuff. And we've got to hear a bit more about Bruce's epic journey. At 1 minute, he was texting me pictures of John Smith's whatever it was up in the Isle of Skye, and the next minute is in Notting Hill in some very, very interesting looking Sam Smith's pub with 4-foot doors that you had to stoop down to get in. So yeah, another fantastic find. So I think we might need to come back to that. I'm guessing there's something to do there with Richie Sunak's or wherever a train deal for those train tickets.
It was absolutely. It's all funded by that.
So let's crack through a quick bit of beer news. I still haven't been able to get hold of any of this new Guinness cold brew coffee beer. I understand that it's only been sold in Tesco's. So we mentioned a couple of podcasts ago that
I've been looking for it, couldn't find it. I didn't realise.
Guinness.
I think I've seen it, but the review say it's bloody horrible. So.
Yeah, Guinness. Obviously, mentioned a few weeks ago obviously the lager and everything is gone. The hop 13's all gone, and they're going to go back to kind of what they know, stout. So they've already created, haven't they, quite a few different. In fact, I did notice in Morrison's there's about 3 or 4 different versions of, if you like, Guinness stout now, and they've just released this one called Guinness cold brew coffee beer. And as Nick says, apparently it smells a lot better than it tastes, but as yet we are yet to get hold of any. So look out for that. Yeah, but I understand now it's a deal with Tesco's. So if you go in Tesco's, you might well find it. We also mentioned races and going racing. I managed actually to get to Newton Abbot races on my trip down to Devon, and I've got a report back. It was £4.20 for a pint of Guinness in Newton Abbot.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, it was that busy. I only managed to get one, and then I just gave up because there was no point in trying to get, 55 deep at the bars. So it was a great day. They actually had limited ticket sales, but it was a nice Saturday. It was Easter Saturday, so a busy day. But I thought £4.20 wasn't bad. And then, in fact, a lorry turned up and they started just flogging cans out of a lorry. But even the key for that was kind of across all the tassels. So, but in Aintree, again, I think you sent me this one, Bruce. In Aintree, this is for the Grand National, about the same weekend. They had their e-bars, which were these vending machines chucking out carling. I think it was £7 a pint at Aintree for a pint.
That's outrageous.
And it's not even served by a human. You go to this machine, you tap your card on, and it dispenses you a pint of Carling lager. So again, for those on YouTube, there's a picture there of somebody having a go at that, which is interesting. I know,
he looks
Bruce,
happy, doesn't he?
You'd been on your tours and you'd picked, this is Morrison's, isn't it? You found that the Northern Monk were flogging off their jam roly-poly pale ale at £6 a box, but I don't think you had any, did you?
No, I regret not buying any now. Yeah.
Because they also did a Yorkshire dinner one, not York. They did a Sunday roast one as well. They did a Sunday roast, and then this was the follow-up jam roly-poly.
Yeah.
Auntie Bessie's collaboration with Northern Monk.
The trouble is, I've actually tried an Aunt Bessie's jam roly-poly, and that was pretty awful. So I got up the thank you.
And then everybody was raving about Lidl had done their Belgian week. And a very nice pack of 6 very, very actually quite well known Belgian beers, a Guldrach and Pirate, which are very strong, and they were doing that 6 bottles for £11.99. And I think
that's a great deal, isn't it?
7.2 to 10.5% was the range, so a very good deal. But I must admit, we don't. I don't tend to go in Lidl at the moment, but I might pop in because there might be some left hanging about. I mean, I just thought I'd throw this one in. We've mentioned Sam's already, but this came up on Twitter, I think, last weekend. My brother got barred from a local Sam Smith's pub for not answering his phone, which is okay because usually your phone isn't loud. But the staff member said they didn't allow music. So they barred him for his ringtone, and that actually got a lot of comments, surprisingly, because of that as well. Okay, so
hang on, whoa, beer news, Ukrainian beer. They've got it in Morrison's Brews.
Oh, have they?
Massive great pallet of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Slab of 10 cans. Didn't have any price on it, and I would have bought some, but I've still got 10 cans of that Brewdog Lost, mate, that we got at Christmas.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was working out at £7 a case, and obviously I don't drink much lager, so I didn't buy it. But yeah, you said you were after some a couple of weeks back, so they've got a big pallet in Malton Morrison's at the moment.
Oh, I was, yeah.
And it says all contributions go to profits from this buying this beer go to the Ukrainian fund, So yeah.
Tomorrow, yes.
Talking of the dog that shall not be named, and I think Nick's got over that point now when he was telling us about that wonderful beer he'd bought the other week, and we had to tell him that it was brewed by Brewdog. Was that Cloudwater, wasn't it? Because their beers were brewed by in Ellen.
It wasn't beautiful. It was all right. It was palatable.
It is tonight. The Brewdog have tried to put on some kind of online thing. I got an invite, but I haven't been along there, so I've just keep my eye on Twitter. What's he called? James and David were I think it's an anniversary of Brewdog, so they were having an open house on Zoom or something. So we'll go. And Nickley's on his Joshua Jane Ilkley beer tonight.
195 from Booths. They also had Fellwalker at 150 in Booths today. Booths in Penrith. £1.50 for a bottle of Fellwalker.
BeertownMalton. So this was established back in 2014. And I think at the time it was to showcase the new breweries, particularly Brass Castle and Bad Seed. And they think got a lovely beer mat there. And I've got my lovely beer menu here as well, as long as a t-shirt. And also, I think at the time, wasn't it right, the Milton Rooms, which is a proper old Yorkshire assembly rooms, had also been refurbed at the same time. So it was a great chance to showcase some nice architecture in a lovely market town and promote some good beer. So they ran annually. I think it's normally more of a kind of a Augusty, September date they tend to use. But as always with COVID in 2019, things came to a halt. They tried to put on a 2021 version, but again, they pulled out fairly close to the actual date and said they were going to postpone it. So that was it. So just before Easter in April, they put it back on. It was a 3-night special. So Thursday night was a kind of a bit of an invitation, mainly for brewers, and then a Friday daytime and evening session, and then a Saturday daytime and evening session. So we managed to get into the Friday session. I drove across from work, and Nick was, although your thing on Saturday, you kind of finished work, and off we went. So we didn't go for the mad £50 drink as much as you want offer. We stuck to the £7 up front online tickets, which was very nice. You got a glass for that, which was you get £2 back, and more on that in a minute. And they're quite nice glasses as well. So I think technically for a £5 evening, it's very nice. Didn't get any beer tokens. That was maybe a little bit stingy. Beer prices weren't bad, wasn't it? I mean, you were drinking mainly halves and 2/3 anyway, so it's sometimes a little bit hard to think. But was it about £2? I'm just looking on our list here.
I think your cheapest would have been equivalent to £4 for a pint.
Yeah.
So we were on £4 and £5 a pint, and the most expensive was £6 for half a pint, so £12.
Yeah.
And that was for a Brew York Espresso Toncoco Plantation Rum Barrel Aged Tonka Vanilla Stout at a 10.6,
which we didn't try.
Or you could have the Turning Point Mild Zero, which is 15%, and that was a Stroop Waffle Imperial Stout.
Oh my God!
Once again, that would have cost you £12 for a pint. Yeah. Now that £50, Mike. I mean, we said in hindsight, silly money to pay because you would have been under the table before you'd actually managed to suck £50 worth. But we realised, in fact, that you could have just gone and had a mouthful of every beer in the place, because you were having to pay for it. You'd already paid £50, so you could have said that you'd tried every beer. And how many beers were there? There were
I've got it on the
There
next slide, I
was-
think. There was 31 keg and 38 keg and 31 cask.
Yeah.
So 69 beers. And I
So
think,
yeah,
pretty good, wasn't it?
you could have said it's a bit wasteful on the beer, although I'm sure you could have said to the staff,
Yeah.
just give me a mouthful.
Yeah,
You know, if you had a wristband on,
yeah,
then you could have basically tried every one. But otherwise, yeah, to try and spend your 50 quid, you would have been very poorly, I
Yeah.
would have said.
We didn't see many people with wristbands, but then we went in the evening, got there about 7 o'clock, didn't we? So again, those on YouTube, that's the Milton Rooms. It's up in the marketplace in Malton, next to the new Malton bistro bar, and just up across from chapter 2 that Nick talked about a minute ago, and the new bar Omni again is just on that stretch as well. So as I mentioned there, quite a broad range of beers, 31 cask and 38 kegs. So they split the room in half. One half was cask down one side, and then there was also keg down the other, mainly on gravity hand pull, but there were a couple of barrels as well. And we sampled one of the straight from the barrel, wooden barrel on the bar, which was interesting. There was live music on again on the Friday and Saturday night. So we went on the Friday night. It was steady. We got there. It was fairly quiet. We got there. Quite a few people had been there obviously for a while. They were drifting away to get trains and buses home. It got quite busy about 9 o'clock when kind of, like the nighttime lot came. But then again, by we left about 10:30ish. It was pretty quiet. I don't think we had to queue at the bar, Nick. Did we? More than
Staff
one?
were brilliant. The volunteers, people behind the bar, so quick, mainly knowledgeable. I think somebody got the price wrong once, but that was the one benefit that they had plenty of volunteers on, plenty of staff behind the bar, and that was a quick turnover. The downside to me was it was great that the Milk Room's being used, but I'm not a big fan of beer festivals. When you're in a noisy place, you stood up to drink. It's like I said to you, Mike. I mean, we could have gone around 3 pubs in Malton. We could have got 3/3 in each pub, sampled 9, 10, 11 beers, and it would have probably been a bit more comfortable and probably a lot cheaper as well.
Yeah, I think with
so
it being...
I'm not knocking the festival. It was nice to, like you say, it was nice to see
Yeah.
a lot of people had come from Scarborough, York on the train, on the buses.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see them coming into town. I would hope that they maybe realise that, there is a good choice of beer in town, even though a lot of the pubs are still closed in town. If you wanted to come for a little session, a little crawl around Malton and Norton, then, there's the potential there to do that. Because I say, as you know, within that marketplace now, you can sample 10 beers, real ales, for price of 3 pints, really.
And again, probably about a third of the beers were either Bad Seed or Brass Castle. Again, just put the menu back up there. Quite a lot of Yorkshire beers. There was Brew York, Harrogate, Mallingtons, but actually also some from across the country. So there was Wylam's, there was Colonel. So quite a range really. I think in the afternoon when the band's not on, they had tables down the middle, and you could sit down and have a nice beer. I think obviously the idea with the bands were that there was dancing space, so they got rid of the tables. So actually in the hall you couldn't sit down, although there was seating space down in the festival bar and in the back in the assembly rooms as well. So that is the view that when we got there. For those on YouTube, that's Milton Rooms in the evening. So very nice. I say on entry you got given your glass and you got quite a nice little beer menu. Not maybe a lot of material, not a lot of reading in it. It was basically the menu again, but quite useful to kind of keep track of what was going on.
Just a tickers list, isn't it?
And here's a couple of pictures. So they had big boards above the bars with the beers on, as well as the beer menu. We'd already, as you see on the right-hand picture there, if you're on YouTube, we'd already kind of done a little bit of kind of pre-thinking about what we might want to sample. And there's Nick just debating with the hairy beer man. I wish he's going to pay, because again, that was the other thing about them. It was a bit confusing sometimes about what they were doing. Actually, there they had some beers were on the tea bar, and then mainly on behind on a big keg rack as well. So they're the beers that we sampled, and in fact, since then I've seen quite a few of those actually down there in Staffordshire. I was drinking the Ekyarnot on Sunday night. So we kicked off with a Burnt Mill New Barns combi, which is a very interesting combination. Burnt Mill New Barns, one of those is Scottish, and one of them is Newcastle, isn't it?
That was my favourite of the night, actually. I give that an 8.
And that's got a really good writer there, yeah. I mean, not just at the festival. We then went on to Mallison's Equinaut, which is they're from Huddersfield. We then moved on to a Sonoma Pale Ale. That was very nice. I quite like that. We then we went across to the keg section, and we had Ubaldo, which is one of the Saint Males of the desert from Sheffield, 5.6, a bit stronger. We then tried Nick's favourite, which was the Abbeydale from the
bloody horrible.
The funk dungeon, I think they call it, was a fermented, one of those open fermented beers, which we'll come back to in a minute.
I mean, I was drinking Abbeydale last night at the Cross Keys because they have one on their permanent Abbeydale dissolution, and that's a nice beer. But what they were trying to do, or what they were thinking about with that Amarillo mixed farmhouse pale, well, yeah, quite.
We thought we'd better try some Malton beer, so I always like Bad Seed. So Bad Seed Dream Ticket was a very nice beer. The Harrogate Double X Mild, that was one straight from the woods. And again, I've got some in a minute. Nick then, we then actually had a bit of a dip out. We actually cheated slightly, and we left the little rooms, and we went to Omni and had a paddle each in there. Omni. And when we came back in, Nick said, let's try a lager. So we had a Elbington Metal Pils, which was quite nice. And
that's that one that's supposed to win World Beer Awards, Brew. Based over Elbington. It was all right for a lager.
And then we finished off
with
a 2x2 session IPA, and we finished off with a Rebirth, which was a Moors brewery. I think they're Bristol, aren't they? So some nice beers, different beers. I said we were mainly drinking halves or thirds. I think we had some thirds of the stronger stuff, mainly and halves with those as well. So as I mentioned, there's Nick just caressing the barrel of the XX mild from Harrogate, which was quite interesting. Quite a strong mild at 5.6, but that was nice. That was, again, you got a bit of a wood taste to it as well. As I mentioned, these were the sitting areas. So there is in the Milton Rooms a little bar on the left-hand side that kind of supports the music events and things. It's a bit, typical kind of stagey bar. And they just closed the bar off and put seating down there as well. And then a very impressive...
They have been trying to open that bar on an evening, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. I think once again, though, they're relying on volunteers. So if anybody's making a special trip through to Malton, don't quote me on that. But I keep seeing they've got a sandwich board outside saying, theatre bar up and Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
They do tend to serve Brass Castle and Bad Seed beers in there, so it's good. And then if you go behind the stage, there is a fantastic assembly rooms, very, very stunning building. Although, as you can see there, when Nick's walking in for those on YouTube, it was quite quiet when we got in there. There's a lot of seating in there, actually. But it was something a bit quieter to disappear, wasn't it? And find some space.
It had to be, because that was the biggest criticism of the night. The sound system was absolutely horrendous. I mean, they're all sort of like folky-based bands. I just don't know why they don't do acoustic, because it doesn't need to be loud. You get the music, but you don't need it amplifying through pretty crappy equipment. You couldn't hear what they were singing. Oh, it was horrible. It really was horrible.
Anyway, let's give a little bit of Blackbeard Tea Party, who headlined the Friday night.
Did you hear what he was singing?
He was singing "A Devil's Gone to Georgia," and there's Nick, obviously really loving the music at the time. So I can see it was a bit busy. People were dancing. It was great. It was a shame because, like you said, they're a bit of a folky kind of sea shanty band. I thought they were quite good. And the guys before. Now this was the Abbeydale Amarillo mixed farmhouse pale. I think we only went for thirds of that, and as you can see, Nick was not really enamored with that. And I did share that with Abbeydale, and they did bounce it back to us as well. So as I mentioned, we nipped out. We went to Omni, which is the new feel of the new partner bar for the new Malton. Opened not that long ago, Nick, a couple of months or so ago.
They've been trying to open it since last summer. So yeah, opened maybe a couple of months back.
And they are billing themselves as the Bar and Yorkshire Tapas Grill. And as you can see there, they had 4 hand pumps on. We gave the Abbot a little bit of a miss, although I did notice some people this week on camera saying how wonderful it was to see Abbeydale on. And they do paddles, so we ended up with a third of Pennine Heartland, which is the dark amber beer, Rudgate South Pacific, and Great Newsom Holderness Dark. So I get some really nice Yorkshire beers there, quite a train. So it was quite nice dipping out and just sitting in a slightly different environment. It was quite busy for Friday night. We got a seat at the bar there, as you can see. Again, another spot well worth visiting, and I think they are going to have those beers on. We had a chat with Gemma about Untapped when we were in there as well. So yeah, well worth a little visit. So we just took out and then headed back into Beertown. So Beertown, yeah, I think Nick's kind of already summarised it a little bit. It was nice. It was nice to be back in a beer festival because I haven't been one for 3 years.
Good, it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, worth doing it. I think it was good that we supported those breweries. But yeah, and hopefully maybe next time around we might be able to rope Bruce in as well. And all three of us could go along. Yeah, it was certainly worth going along and sampling some of those beers. So a bit of a short one today. The plan is we've still got to catch up with our letters. So the letters we pulled out when the last time we did our letters were G, J, and W. So we'll probably try and maybe get this out maybe at the weekend to get the next episode out, and then we can catch up on some of those travels that we mentioned in the podcast as well. And I say that at some point I'll also do a little summary of my trip down to Salcombe and the South Hams and talk a few little pubs down there as well. Bruce certainly has got some tales from Notting Hill to tell us, and hopefully some from the Isle of Skye as well, which look quite interesting. And then we'll see where we are. So, gents, any closing remarks?
No, I think you're right about beef. Nice to see him back, really. But like a bit like Nick, really. I like the thought of a beer festival. When I get there, I kind of wish I was sat in a quiet pub somewhere, really.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point. I fully support.
And I say, I think the Milton runs would have been a lot better if they hadn't put the application through. You know, if the bands were playing because they were the right sort of band. You know, they were lively enough, they were joyous enough, but it just ruined it by putting it through not a very good PA system. And it also meant, you know, obviously, if people were wanting to have a chat, you were shouting at each other. You're shouting stood up at each other because you can't hear each other. You tend to drink a bit more as well instead of being able to enjoy what you're drinking. So, yeah, it was, yeah.
And then, just remember me, I also had a trip up to Buxton on, was it Sunday as well. So I know, I think this time last year, I talked a lot about Buxton Brewery. It was one of our kind of God's lifesavers around us where they opened up their garden tap. So went back up and been for a while. Last time I'd been to Buxton, I'd been to actually the tap bar they actually have to have in the town. So we've done a bit of cycling. So called at the brewery, and really nice to see that because the weather wasn't great on Sunday, they've now opened an indoor part to the brewery as well upstairs, which was quite interesting. Only a limited number of beers on. They had one cask, which was their best bitter, and then I think 3 kegs. But he did say they're gonna develop the range, so I'll perhaps feed back on that as well. So, gents, good night.
He's got strong arm permanent on our camera. Cameron strong arm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's making a comeback. I had a pint in Stokesley a few weeks ago. I can't say I'm a fan of strong arm, but again, I like to see the pump there for the nostalgic reason. But he tastes it.
Yeah. Well, you see, he's got strong arm on now, which is come down to 4%. That's going to be permanent. He's got Leeds Brewery their pale on permanently, and then he's got 2 guests that he's going to rotate. So he's got a range of strength and colours, a bit like Gemma's always done at New Malt. She's always had a blonde, sort of an amber, and then a darker one, a ruby or a porter. So that's the way that Steve's going with it. Yeah. And I say once again, when you're on your thirds, it gives you a great selection because you just go, light, medium, and dark, and then choose which one you like the better, which is what I tend to do, and then stick on that one. So yeah.
Good stuff. And we may have some more news on Steve's potential beer festival in June as well, which I know he's planning. So we might have an on that as well. Okay, guys, cheers. We might see you again at the weekend and try and get another episode out. But till then, all the best. Enjoy your beer, Nicholas, and we'll see you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Cheers.